Welcome to 30 Second Success Connect, where we introduce entrepreneurs and professionals who love to connect and lead with their hearts. I'm Laura Templeton with 30 Second Success, and with me today is the amazing sneaker-wearing Margye Solomon. Margye is a Converse-wearing, bourbon-drinking professional woman in her late 60s who has fully embraced her later stage life by aging not so gracefully. Loaded with her life stories, she's ready to share her white-haired wisdom with other women. Welcome, Margye. Thank you so much for joining me today. I love having you here with me.
Good morning, and I'm just so excited to be here. Thank you for asking me.
You know, you and I have known each other for several years now, so I'm really excited to introduce you to the rest of my audience and my network and beyond. And let's share how you and I first met. Do you remember?
I believe it was at Walnut Club. I think when I wrote down Ellevate Network, I wasn't going back far enough. And I honestly do not remember which event it was at Walnut Club, but I do remember meeting you, and we talked about Converse, and we talked about a lot of things, so, but mostly about my sneakers.
Yes, yes. I think the first time we actually met was at a Walnut Club Ellevate combination event at the Pyramid Club. And it was when you first started working with Tam, and you were there representing Ellevate and Walnut Club, and everybody kind of came together. So it was really kind of cool and I think Fem City was part of that group as well. So there's three different organizations that brought us all together. So it's kind of cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it was a vision of mine. And I've been with Ellevate Network for 11 years in leadership. And at one time I was on the board of the Walnut Club, and I've been a member of Fem City. So it was a lot. And I heard so much from other women that it's just too much trouble to go to every single event. Isn't there some place we could all go? So we got together with Jennifer and Marla and actually folks from Women on Law and Power and several other organizations, and said, would you all like to come and meet together? And they did.
Yeah, that was a great idea. I think I have seen so much growth in all three organizations since that actually started happening on a regular monthly basis. And I love networking with so many other amazing women, different levels. You know, let's talk a little bit about Ellevate. We don't want to go, don't need to go too far into it, but Ellevate has been a big part of your life, right?
Yes, yes. And actually it started with 85 Broads, which was the original group to inspire, empower, and connect professional women. And in 2014 or 2013, 85 Broads was sold to Sally Krawcheck, and then the next year she rebranded to Ellevate Network. And I've been in leadership since day one. I was the first elected president in the Cincinnati chapter, and I was on the founding leadership team. So 2 chapters, a lot of years. And now I'm just an advisor. I'm really happy to be an advisor.
Yeah, like I said, we met at the Philadelphia chapter at the Pyramid Club, which is an amazing location. I think I probably said yes to going to that meeting because it was at the Pyramid Club. It's such a beautiful space, and they do a lot for connecting entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals in and around the city. So the Pyramid Club is a great place to network in so many different opportunities that they present too. So that's pretty cool. So
it is. And I honestly believe that through some of those events that the Pyramid Club has gained a lot of new members as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's, it's everybody kind of getting to know the space that you're in. It really opens up a lot of opportunities, and that's what networking is all about. Come see the space and their generosity there and how they treat their guests is just amazing. So, you can't help but feeling like you're home when you're there, which is kind of cool. So I love that about the Pyramid Club. Talk a little bit, you have an amazing corporate background, and you mentioned that you moved from Cincinnati and you've moved several times in your corporate career. Let's talk about how connection and networking has really helped you in your corporate experience.
Well, I've had a really long career, and I have worked for both small business and for corporations in my career. I've actually owned my own business. I spent 30 years in travel and tourism, and ran a couple of travel companies. I ran a call center, travel call center. Actually helped start it, run it. I was one of the first female non-pilot directors of aviation, general aviation, in the United States. And that was kind of fun. I had 6 pilots and 2 mechanics who worked for me, all male, until I did hire a female pilot. But all of this throughout my career, jobs and career movement came through connections. I worked for Avis Rent-A-Car for 12 years, and I got that job because when I closed my travel business, my travel agency, a friend of mine who had actually been my Avis rep called me and said, "We've got an opening in Nashville." Nashville's my kind of hometown, and would you be interested? And 3 months later, I was working for Avis. So it's all about who you connect with, and through Ellevate, through organizations I belong to, through jobs I've had, and especially all my years in the travel industry and having traveled around the world, I have connections around the world.
Yeah. You know what? So that kind of leads to something you shared with me that I would love for people to hear that you were exploring doing. Let's talk about your travel plans for this not so aging gracefully period of yours.
Well, through this sort of COVID experience that we've had, I have started to look at, actually my husband and I have started to look at what we want to do next in sort of our I hate saying our final chapter, but it is our later stage chapter, our late stage chapter in our lives. And I get itchy. I'm a mover. My father was an engineer. We moved all my life. And as a matter of fact, the longest place I've ever lived was Nashville, and that was close to 30 years. So it really became my home. I've lived in 11 states, and I don't know how many countries, but I'm still missing 6 or 7. And I told my husband, I said, why don't we just, I work virtually anyway, why don't we just leave and do some couch surfing, which is aging not so gracefully. I'll pack up my Converse, my sneakers, and let's hit the road for 3 or 4 months. So we're honestly considering that, and we want to see. We have family all over the country, family and friends all over the country, and we're just going to call them and say, hey, can we'll bring our own blow-up bed. Can we sleep in your couch for a couple of nights when we hit your state or your city? So that's kind of the raw beginnings of our plan.
That's awesome. I love that. And I love that, you're thinking of creative ways. And now you can put your travel plans, kind of travel practice back into play there.
Yeah, it's been a long time. But I actually love maps, and I do like to plan those things. And I guess that's what drew me to the travel business in the first place, was that, I love to move and change You know, one of the things I learned a long time ago is change is the only constant in our lives.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And, you know, so my heart is right there with you. You know, my husband and I have desire to travel across the country, but ours is a little different. You want to start, you know, you want to couch surf and visit with friends and, you know, connect with people along the way and share your wisdom. We're looking to, I know that, I don't know if I've told you this, we want to shoot archery in all 50 states. So,
We've talked about that. I know.
you know,
I know, but it's a great
hey.
idea.
So yeah, so just gotta, you know, get the map out and start putting pins on where we've been, and you know. So that's a goal of ours. So I totally get what you're saying about, you know, that would be a great way for us to see all the states, is just, you know, plan to shoot archery everywhere and, you know, just kind of go. Yeah, and I love that. I love the fact that you're, you know, even talk about, share a little bit about the book that you're writing right now, because I think that really kind of plays into this, right?
Well, yes, it does. And I'm working with just a wonderful woman uh, named Heidi Solomon Orlick. No relation to me, because she is a Solomon. I'm a Solomon by marriage. We're not sure if she and my husband are related, but and Heidi actually used to live here in Philadelphia. They've since moved to New Hampshire, to a farmhouse that they kind of redid in New Hampshire. And Heidi's a traveler as well. But about a year or so ago, when I started talking about aging not so gracefully, and putting a book together about aging not so gracefully, she said, "Can I help? Can I help? Can I be part of the book?" And I said, "Yeah, yes, please." So it will be a collection of stories, blogs from women. Um, I think most of them they'll all be over 50. And then there will be some that are over 60 and over 70 and in their 80s. So we're, you know, I'm kind of excited about it. I've been writing about aging now for the past couple of years and want to put some of those things that I've written together. But I actually, you know, as far as the living on the road, and you know, don't know what I'm going to call that, but I do intend to blog and do interviews while we're on the road. So those will probably be part of Aging Not So Gracefully, or at least, you know, one chapter. But it's I don't know. It's a lot of fun. It's just sort of a labor of love. Don't know if anybody will ever read it, but
I will. I promise. I promise.
Well, it might be that those in my age group will.
Yeah.
You know, to find out how to age not so gracefully. I did have somebody come to me one day, and actually I think a friend of yours, who said, "Well, why aging not so gracefully? That's so negative." And I said, "Well, not really, because the way I look at it is that you can age. What I see other people writing about it, aging gracefully, is that you do the things that you're supposed to do to age gracefully. You know, you keep your skin right and you look good and you let your hair grow out and, you know, stop dyeing it and wear clothes appropriate to your age and yada, yada, yada." But you know, I don't want to age gracefully. I want to go out the way I want to go out. And
Wearing your chucks, right?
if that's not graceful, you know, yeah, wearing my chucks, drinking my bourbon neat.
Yeah.
Sometimes one ice cube, because that does open up the bouquet. But but that's, you know, that's my philosophy.
That's awesome. I love that. And I think that is so amazing. You know, my husband and I constantly talk about, we get to a certain point and we always go, okay, so what's next? We're constantly evolving to just explore what's next. And rather than sitting around waiting for life to happen to us, I'd rather decide what life's going to be like for us, what we want. And I think, you know, a lot of people get to a point where they forget that it's okay to dream. It's
Yes.
like, let's dream about what's next. Why not? Right. So I love what you're doing. I think that is so amazing that you're putting that out there and you're sharing it with other people in hopes of encouraging them to not want to age so gracefully. So I love what you're doing. So share with me a little bit about, a specific connection or, you had mentioned a little while ago about two men that you met at some point in time that really kind of made a big difference in your career. So share a little bit about that story.
Well, to try to make it quick, I was transferred to Cincinnati by Avis about 3 years before the recession, the Great Recession hit, the last one. And I was then laid off at the end of 2009. Got my package and all that kind of stuff. But there were a couple of things. I was 56 years old. I had been with the company for 12 years. Nobody was hiring. I had been transferred in 2006. So I literally woke up January 1st, 2009, in a city I did not know because I was on the road all the time. Didn't have any friends, really. I had colleagues, but no friends. And no prospects for work. And I needed to work. So I had a couple of interviews, and my husband, I got home and I was just so depressed. And my husband said, well, let's just go have a drink. So we went to a bar we'd never been to, but it looked kind of nice and in a part of Cincinnati that's very cool. And so we walked in, we sat at the bar, and there were two other people at the bar, and there was kind of a small group at the end of the bar. And my husband got to talking to this woman who was doing a crossword puzzle, and a guy who'd lost his job was watching Jeopardy on the TV. So I walked down, and I just introduced myself and started talking to these men. And one was wearing a bow tie, suits. And they were just having a big time, and we got to talking, and they asked me who I was, all this kind of stuff. And I didn't know who they were from Adam, right? And so they broke off from their other friend, and we got to talking, and I told them I'd lost my job. And one of them said, oh yeah, I use Avis all the time. And I said, great. I still have friends. I can help you if you need anything. And he said, yeah, would you? And I said, sure. So then they said, well, what have you done in the past? And I said, well, I did this. And we got around to something. My very first job out of college was at Opryland, which was a theme park in Nashville. And it turns out that they started Kings Island in Cincinnati. And they knew a lot of the same people I did. But they told me years later that the reason they liked me and they took me under their wing was because I was a carny. That I had worked in the carny business. And one of them turned out to be the managing partner of venture capital firms in the Midwest. And and they were both former Procter P&Gers. And the other one owned one of the largest advertising media firms in the Midwest. And between the two of them, they introduced me to every mover and shaker in the city of Cincinnati. Wow. One of them gave me office space so I could try to find a job and have a place to work. They adopted me, and Aww. It changed my life. And with that and my work at Cincinnati Public Radio and 85 Broads, I became a commissioner on the Small Business Advisory Board of Cincinnati. I was an Athena finalist.
Wow.
I mean, and I had jobs. So, and I had an entirely new career in that city. So all I had to do was stand up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. You never know where the connections are going to happen. And if you're willing to talk to people when you're out and about, it's incredible what happens. Like even just, here's a perfect example of just, being open to having a conversation with two friendly people. Your husband was there, so it was okay.
He was talking to somebody else.
Yeah, so it's like, it's amazing though when those opportunities present themselves and you're just natural at having conversations. You just never know where it's going to lead.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me. And here's that life-changing story that happens all the time. And the fact that you were open and willing to share with them what your experiences were, and that's incredible. I love that story. That is a great story.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I love the fact that it's a story from when you were later in life, 50. We talk now, and I love the fact that you wrote an article about ageism in your blog about ageism, because it really is an issue, and a lot of people avoid that conversation. If you get laid off and you're over 50, sometimes it's a lot harder to find another job or to recreate yourself, and you have to be willing to recreate yourself sometimes in order to move forward in your career. So I think that's kudos to you for connecting with the right people. And again, it's all about connecting, right? It really is. I think that it just amazes me that sometimes we're able to fall back on the folks that we meet that can help make a difference in our lives. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, and when you talk about connecting, and we talked about this, I wrote an article. It has been published, but I'll put it out, about the use of words. And you'll notice I never use the word networking.
I know.
because I think it's a sort of shallow depiction of what we need to be doing.
Right.
And we should be connecting. I connected with those men. I wasn't networking. I was really depressed. And but I connected with them because they were a couple of friendly faces.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were out, and I had a woman here in Philadelphia ask me, I've lived here a little over 6 years, and we were talking and getting to know one another. We connected several times, and she gave me a ride one day, and so we were talking about different people and who we knew and in common. And she said, "And how long have you lived here?" And I said, "Oh, almost 6 years." And she said, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, almost 6 years." And she said, "How do you know so many people? And how have you done everything you've done in 6 years?" And it all comes back to making connections. And, it's the 3 R's. Retention requires relationship. So if you don't make a connection and you don't keep that connection and you don't retain that connection in some way, you will not keep a relationship. I mean, or if you don't keep a relationship, you will not retain that relationship. Mm-hmm. And that's in business, that's personally, that's everything. So, my analogy is, especially for women, when you you can go to a hairdresser and he or she can do a fabulous job in your hair. But if you don't connect with that hairdresser, you may come back and try somebody else, even though they did a good job, but you didn't make a connection. And that trust and that connection that you needed to make isn't there.
Right. So one other thing you share with me a little while ago that I absolutely love, and it came from someone you have a really good connection with, is how you approach connecting with people. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
The 3 Gs. The 3 Gs.
Give to get to give.
Right.
Give to get to give. Years ago, I was doing an event for Ohio River Valley Women's Business Conference, where I was the director. And at our annual event, I invited a couple of men to come and speak. They were both minority business owners. And one of them was speaking, and he was speaking about relationship. And there was a woman in the audience who he had pulled into a relationship and signed a joint venture with, and he called her out during his speech, and there were like 300 people in the room. And he said, he said, stand up, and she did. And he talked about how important it was to do this, to give. You give to get to give, because it's a circle. All right. When you walk into a room, you walk into the room not thinking about what can I get from this event, or what can I get from this, or who can I sell, but you walk into the room thinking, who can I give to today? Who can I help? And the only way to find out is to ask. So my philosophy, and Carl told me I could use it and have it. I asked permission years ago, and this is a long time ago, probably 9-10 years ago. And he said, absolutely. And so I have used it for all of those years. And when I speak to people about making connections, or going to events where you can network, proper use of that word, you can build a network by connecting. I always use give to get to give, because if you get, you immediately must turn around and give again.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I love spending time with you, and I am so thrilled that you were here with me today. Thank you so much, Margye, for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you. And be sure and talk about your book.
I will. I promise. I will talk about my book. Yes, 30-Second Success helps people figure out how to make better connections with their audience and understand the importance of relationship. So there you go. Thank you, Margye, for reminding me. Remember to subscribe to 30-Second Success Connect for more videos, and share us with your friends.